All right. I want to thank you all for joining us. You're not going to see me today, which may be a good thing. This is Mark Schumacher, as you know, but at the moment I'm remote at an airport, and for whatever reason we can't get the video in, but no big deal. We got a great panel, we got a great subject, so we're just going to kind of rock and roll through this. Let me just kind of give you the hits, runs, and errors here. This is, of course, as you know, it's going to be a webinar about social media and capturing your target audience. And the goal today really is to provide you all with practical, implementable tactics and strategies to better engage your customers and prospective customers. So that's always good. So first and foremost, let me do a little bit of housekeeping here and just let you know that, of course, you can access all of our webinars. This one included will be at myhfa.org/webinar. It's always available there. If you do have questions during the webinar today, you may add them to the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. That's going to be the easiest way for you to do that. We also have a ton of questions that you all managed to give us when you registered. And of course, we also want to always thank our thought leader in education. We want to thank Synchrony for their support of these efforts. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panel. You see them right in front of you here. I'm going to go around the list here, but first and foremost, we have Marissa Peacock. She's joining us. She is the founder of the Strategic Peacock. She's been with us before, and she's a social media strategist. She's all about finding those key messages that can be developed and delivered through the right channels. So Marissa, we love seeing you again with us. Thank you so much. We also have Crystal Valkaitis with us. She's the owner and founder of Crystal Media. She is a very well-known social media expert and a powerful speaker in this area. And she works with thousands of retailers to increase traffic, sales, and profits using social media. And thank you for being here, Crystal. Appreciate that. And we also have Bailey Nebaker joining us. She really wears two hats because she's the owner of American Homestead Furniture, a manufacturer, and then also Wallaroo's Furniture and Mattress retail side of things. But the main reason we have her here is because she's done some pretty amazing things on social media. So we're going to be tapping into Bailey's abilities here today too. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it very, very much. And I'm sorry you can't see me because I look fantastic today. So yeah, we know that's not true. I always like to start with kind of an open, somewhat of a basic question, but I think it's important to kind of know this out of the gates. I think before we talk about strategies and tactics, before you can really have that, you really kind of have to know who your audience is or your audiences, I guess you should say as well. So let me just ask this first. Marissa, I'll start with you, but how do you suggest that anybody listening to this, large retailer or small, how do they first go about really figuring out who their audience is or who they're trying to reach? What are the ways they should be doing that so that it makes sense for their business?
Well, I think, first of all, great question. Happy to be here. Thanks for everyone for joining us. But your question is great because you really can't start developing your messaging until you really understand who you're trying to sell to. So obviously you want to think about what are your goals and what are the products that you have to offer? What are those price points? What type of materials are you using? Where are you located? What are the means of purchase, the consumer journey? And then you can sort of match that to who the target audience is, right? And so again, if we're dealing with other high-end materials, it's not going to be college students and, young professionals, right? It's going to be, more established individuals who have a little bit more disposable income or things like that. If you're dealing with, so again, you want to think about the lifestyle experience that you're trying to match it to, and then find where those that audience sort of exists and lives. What type of social media are they using? Are they most likely to be using a mobile device versus a desktop? Are they, watching television? Are they, engaging in the second and third screen experiences? So again, you want to make sure that not only is your products tailored to them accordingly, but that you're also meeting them where they are and, sort of a day in the life. Are they podcast listeners? Are they taking public transportation? Are they in their own vehicle? How do they connect, in their communities? So a lot of it is, what do you have to offer? Who does that connect well to? But then there's also the added challenge, and I'm sure we'll get into this more, but there's, the current audience you have, and there's the audience that you want. And so how do you bridge that gap? So you might have high-end materials, but you're like, you know what? This is a great first starter couch because this is something that's going to stay with you your entire lives, right? So again, sometimes you have a story that you need to sell in a different way to a target audience that may not consider you to be their first choice. So
100%.
yeah, so you kind of have to figure out who you are first, what you have to offer, and then see where your audience is, and where there is potential for it. So it's not
We'll
there's
drill
no
down.
easy answer to that.
No, 100%. And we'll drill down
Yeah,
further in those things. I appreciate it.
yeah.
It's a good start. Bailey, I want to go to you next just because I'm curious, how you surmounted this, being a retailer and a manufacturer as well. Because this is really the starting point, isn't it?
Yes. I think about social media as it pertains to a really effective marketing funnel. And sometimes it happens by accident. Very little in life happens by accident, but sometimes you get virality on something or you just get a little bit of traction. And that little bit of traction alone can help dictate who your audience is in social media. We know for a fact that the young audience, the Gen Z audience, the consumers are really researched, even more so than millennials and even more so than the baby boomers. Sorry, I never quite know what to call them. So
You can
everyone is
call
doing
you
their
can call us baby
research.
boomers. It's okay.
Everyone's doing their research. It depends on who you are, where you're doing that research. So how to target your audience, hashtags are still really effective when it comes to Meta and the Meta suite. And you have to be pretty explicit about it. Furniture, Spokane, Spokane, furniture,
We
hashtag New
would.
York City, furniture, hashtag Oklahoma, furniture. If your customer is in a geographic area, then you say, this is where I want this to be shown. And that's the most effective organic way to get your audience to see your product.
We will dig down there. I guess I want to just re-ask that a little bit more though. But how did you determine who your audience was? How did you define that in order to really then be strategic about it? I'm just kind of curious to help out of the retailers out there. What did you do to identify that?
That's such a good question because the way I define my audience is the person who wants a product at a great value. And that
Okay.
could be anybody. But generally speaking, a younger audience is who came into my store. That is who responded well to my product. So it's
Love it.
give a little and see what comes back.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I'll let Crystal let you weigh in too, because I think that we need to let everybody know that they need to first and foremost just look at who's coming in the door, and not really add a lot of unnecessary science to this. Crystal, do you agree? Is it just one of those things where to even begin to start, you just really have to make sure that you're paying attention?
Totally agree. I mean, everything that's been said, I would echo. And then also doing some research too. Like if you feel like you're not entirely clear who the audience is, leverage what you have today. So if you are pretty active on Facebook or Instagram, you have insights on those people as far as location and age and gender. You've got some of the like basic demographic information, understanding the content that's resonating as you're seeing them in the store. Like, are they a big sports fan? Do they have a family? Do they have pets that they're bringing in? Like really understanding those interests and observing. And then also doing some research on Google Analytics. If you have an email list, you can send a survey and have them enter to win to get some more of that data too. So the only thing I would add to what's already been said is doing some research and collecting the data.
And I appreciate that very much. I think it's a good start because you have to realize that we talk to retailers on a daily basis, and everybody is always concerned about the budget. And what I'm kind of getting at here is, and you guys just said it beautifully just now, is that you need to just begin by just paying attention to what's going on around you. Really pay attention to who's coming, or understanding who that customer is, so then you can really start strategizing. So with that said, and mentioning that a lot of people don't want to necessarily spend a lot more in limited budgets. I'm going to start back to Bailey on this one to start this question. But can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned the word organic, and I think that is it a misnomer that you have to pay for these strategies, that you could really perhaps start out with a really organic approach? How would you respond to that?
If you're providing value to the community, and by community, I mean the community on Instagram, the community on TikTok, the community on Facebook, the community on Pinterest, you will garner an audience organically for free. And for free could mean you as a single owner operator making the content, or it could mean having your sales associates create the content. The reality is, as long as you're creating value and capturing the attention. We're just trading in people's attention. And the best way is to provide a value. An example, 10 tips for decorating your 100,000, or sorry, 10,000, no, 1,000 square foot studio apartment. That's something that a lot of people respond to. So tips, what to look for when you're shopping for furniture.
Okay, once again, I saw Marissa, I saw you nodding there. So you think
Yeah.
this organic piece is key, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, you're having a conversation, especially when we're using social media. There is a social component to it. But the also is it's an opportunity for everyone to show off their expertise, right? And so think about the conversations that maybe you are having in store or with your friends or family when everyone's sort of like, oh my God, I'm looking for a new chair or a new office chair or a new desk or whatever it is, or some home decor. You just don't stand idly by and just be like, yep, you have an opinion and you have an authority on this. Oh, why should I choose this over this, right? So the more educated your consumer is, the faster they're going to go through that lead generation funnel, because they're not going to be spending as much time learning about it, in your store. They're going to come ready, prepared to buy. And by educating the consumer, you're demonstrating your own authority on the subject, and therefore you become someone's go-to resource. Wow, these people know a lot about this particular fabric or this particular material, or they understand my lifestyle, and so they're not going to try to sell me something I don't need. Social is a great way to demonstrate that, and that organic. You have to start somewhere, so you can't really understand how your content's going to perform until you put something out there. And you could do it on a host of different topics, or you can do it in a host of different ways, reels, photos, blogs, all kinds of stuff, and see what resonates, see what the people want to learn more from. What are they sharing? What are they clicking through? So again, organic is great because it really provides you a great benchmark. Then when you know what the people want, then you can amplify it, through paid means if needed.
Gotcha. And Crystal, I'd like to have you weigh in on that too, because I think that's that point that Marissa just made is really, really critical here. That this is your starting point. That you need to, in some ways, kind of find your voice and see what's really working. Then you can put the money behind it. You're not going to pay your way to that point. Is that fair for the folks listening?
Yeah, well, and I think so. I'm a big advocate for ads because organic reach, especially on Instagram and Facebook, is so low. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. But the thing is once you understand what your audience is resonating with organically, you'll spend less on ads because you're creating the right kind of content that resonates with them and intercepts their attention online versus interrupting them. Then you can advertise that. So I completely agree with Marissa. TikTok organic is way better than Facebook and Instagram. And so it sort of depends. The ad strategy would depend on what platform you're spending time on. And this is where some of that organic, like as much as the retailer can, we often see the sales and foot traffic coming through via email. So leveraging social, whether it's organic or paid, but pay, you can do a really great lead ad and pay to get emails and then connect with them there and drive that traffic in. Doesn't mean that you can't sell through social or drive foot traffic. You totally can. But I just want to make sure that the retailer's also thinking of ways that they can build their own list. And if you are spending money, ideally you own that list.
Right.
Gotcha. And a lot of points here that we can and will drill down on, and I want to sometimes just sort of pause switch for a second when we hit an area like this, since this has been a fruitful little section here. Since you mentioned TikTok, Bailey, I'd love to have you weigh in here because you've had some incredible success on TikTok, and so can you talk a little bit about how that's come about and how you've managed to cultivate that as a very effective social channel for y'all?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, we do not know what the future of TikTok is. So having a
that's true.
having a diversified presence on social media is really important. Finding what worked for us on TikTok was simple trial and error, A/B testing, finding what worked, doing it again, finding what worked, doing it again, doing it again, doing it again, doing it again. If it stops working, tweak, do it again, do it again, do it again. Taking that content that we know performs well on TikTok and bringing it to other social media platforms. Our most effective social media campaigns on Meta are essentially a derivative of what we're doing on TikTok.
So is that like a almost a training ground that like that's your test market there because it sounds to me like you can do that in such an immediate way that you're just crafting it as you go. Is that really what I'm hearing?
For us, it's a very specific formula, and
Okay.
finding that formula is trial and error. Sometimes it's a single piece of furniture that people like, and that's fine, because if they click on it and they go to your website and they build some trust and awareness of you, and you can somehow get their information, they're in your funnel. That's all we want to do. So we almost think of it as the most top of funnel brand awareness experience. And from there, craft a call to action that can result in a door swing or a sale on your website if your website is DTC capable.
Crystal, talk a little bit more about this too, as far as you mentioned TikTok a second ago, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well about the case study essentially we just heard from Bailey.
I mean, well, I get really excited about TikTok because I've been in the social media space for over a decade, and we've never seen this kind of organic reach before. And I mean, you will have creators that can create a video or two, go viral, like Bailey said, like you explode out of nowhere. You can't predict some of this. These things happen, but it's often the organic, authentic, natural human just talking to camera, has a story. And the algorithm, based on people's interests and what they scroll and connect with and engage with on the platform, they'll see certain types of posts that the algorithm's delivering them on the For You page. And so with Facebook and Instagram, often for your content to be found, to be seen, it has to be the people that have liked you. They've chosen to follow you. You can get that content through Reels on Facebook and Instagram that can be seen by audiences that don't follow you, but their algorithms aren't as strong. And so, and I just feel like the TikTok user is a little bit different than the Facebook or Instagram user. They're using that For You page to discover new content. It's entertainment, it's inspiration. And so that's where that organic reach, I don't have to be following your furniture store to find you. And their local algorithm is so good too. Like I travel all over the world when I'm speaking, and wherever I am, like I could be in Orlando, and now I'm scrolling on TikTok and I'm getting restaurants in Orlando, things to do, places to check out, have you gotten your park tickets, like all sorts of Orlando specific things in my organic feed, not sponsored ads, organic For You, because because of my location. And so it's powerful for local businesses. It's powerful for online. The key is that you got to show up. And the final thing I'll say, I was on a call with TikTok a couple of weeks ago, and the talk to camera is what's performing best. Like you don't have to necessarily create these really designed, you don't have to dance. Nobody has to dance. If you want, you can, but you don't. Yeah. Bailey, no dancing, Bailey.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. But like just talking to camera and being you and resonating, and talk about your customers' pain points, be the expert, like we talked about before, give the value, teach, be you. That's the content that's really resonating there.
The thing that
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah, please do.
So, I mean, it's so funny. I mean, like, I think find any TikTok account that you follow, scroll for a while, find their very first post. It's horrible, but they put it out there, and then they got better. Then they got a ring light. Then they figured out lighting. But that's the thing, is no one's going to get it right the first time, and they shouldn't, right? Because how boring would that be? So like, just go out and do that. Have something to say. You'll see if people have resonated. And the thing is, the TikTok comment community is on fire compared to Facebook or Instagram. You could get no comments on your reels or posts on Instagram and still have a very large following. On TikTok, you could have, a very little following, but still get a lot of really great engagement. And And again, like that's what makes it fun, because you feel like you're actually talking to people, and then you can have conversations with them in the comments. And especially with, there's a call and response. You can, do a duet, you can remix, all kinds of stuff. So, or you can stitch. And so again, that really enables people to start sharing your content because it's in a way that's comfortable for them.
I also think, it's funny that you said that, because I think that I've always felt like that also that the folks that are consumers of TikTok are also in some ways forgiving. I mean, they're not going to sit there and give you a hard time if your first post is not that fantastic. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of that goes on, but at least that's what I've kind of seen. And oh, by the way, somebody like me sees TikTok only because of the fact that people put pieces of it on my Instagram feed. So I also,
Right.
it's interesting how that happens as well. I want to make sure that we do, if when we can, get to questions that that the folks that are joining us today have asked here. And I guess maybe this might be for you. It said, how many months should you wait on a channel before you pivot? You talked about try it again and again and again and again kind of a situation. Is that maybe what they're reacting to there? But I don't even know if that's, and maybe the question, maybe it's not so much a pivot, but maybe it's just a question of involving more channels.
Between post number 1 and post number 2, between post number 2 and post number 3, you have data to go off of. You know if 1 performed better than 2. If 2 performed better than 1, make video 3 more like 2. If 2 performed better than 3, make video 4 more like 2. So every single time you post, you have data to go in to take into your next post.
Very cool.
If you're getting 100 views on TikTok and it took you 5.5 minutes to make that video, that's 100 people that saw your content. If you're getting 100,000 and it took you 5 minutes, that's 100,000 people. I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare OTT or television to TikTok. It's probably not. But I will say 90%, 96% of the people who view my TikToks are in the United States. And I will say it's pretty pricey to get 100,000 views through OTT or through traditional media. That's 100,000 people who know what your brand is, who maybe didn't just an hour before.
Okay,
Yeah.
super helpful. And I want to ask, before we get off of this subject, the way this has kind of been unfolding here, and Crystal, I'll send this one to you. So is there, because there's everybody, we always get questions that people are looking, everybody's always looking for sort of a simple answer, and that's not always the case. There's a lot more to it. But is there sort of a parameter, if you will, for what you feel is the most compelling content on a TikTok? Are there elements that people should definitively make sure that they include in whatever they do, no matter how unique or authentic it might be to them?
Yeah. So because TikTok is short form video content, TikTok has trained us to consume content quick. And you kind of call that the attention economy. Like our attention span has significantly decreased because of these platforms and because of short form content. So dive right in the beginning. Like we're not going to be using it as like, hey guys, happy Thursday. It's snowing here. Like I want you to be like, oh my gosh, we just got 3 new pieces in, custom made. The artist is phenomenal and I can't wait to show you. Like give a hook, right? And so you can use AI to write some of those hooks for you if you're not sure how I want to start this video, how to be engaging. But I want people to just dive right in the beginning of that video. And then also always be you. And our retailers often feel like there's fear of putting myself on camera. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not great. I'm not enthusiastic. Nobody wants to hear from me. Nobody wants to see me. And they do. Customers want to see you. They want to connect. We want connection now more than ever. And so by having you show up and be human and talk and be you and just connect, that's going to help you stand out. That's what builds the relationship. And they start seeing you over time in their feed. And if you're adding the value and you're addressing their pain points, and they start building that trust. And coming back to the pain points, I really want retailers to focus on what is your customer struggling with right now? Like, are they really what do they need? What are they Googling? What are they trying to find? Go again, use AI, put in what are the top 5 pain points? And my customer, I own a furniture store. You can keep it broad to begin with, then you can, zone in. And all those pain points, that's content for you. I would use that as content for social media, because if I am scrolling for the perfect couch, I just moved into my dream home and I want the perfect couch, I can't find it. And all of a sudden you come up with your hook in the beginning that addresses, like, have you been searching and spending hours and hours and months maybe trying to find the perfect couch? I have the one for you. You're going to love this. Like, I'm going to
Okay.
stop. The goal is to stop the scroll.
Gotcha. And I'm going to get, Liz, I want to definitely get into AI in a second, but Marissa, is there anything you would add to the kind of the dive in, get to it, and show who you are that Crystal
Yes.
just talked about?
Well, the great thing about TikTok is that you can borrow from other people's trends, right? So the idea is to do the goofy stuff, like, and point to things and just be like, here are the 5 things you need to know before buying a couch, right? Or something like that. Like, and you can do it quickly, and you can do it by borrowing from what other people are doing and just put your little twist on it, right? So I think TikTok takes the pressure away from having to be creative and original every time. The whole point is to kind of do what everyone else is doing, but then just put your own twist on it and be fun and apply it to what you have, right? So,
Gotcha.
which then sort of forces you to stay on top of it, right? Which can make it a little bit more fun. It's always more fun when we're actually users of the platform that we are
Sure.
putting our message on.
And by the way, this
Yeah.
question just came into, is there a sweet spot when it comes to the TikTok, time frame as far as the length of a post? Is there anything that you would consider to be the right length?
I will
I
just
know
say it
we're
depends on the hook. I think everyone needs to
okay.
go on TikTok as a viewer and understand the videos that you stop on and the ones that
There
you
you go.
scroll through.
I think that's great.
But
I'm
Bailey knows
always
better than us.
no, but I
Not
mean, no,
necessarily.
but I mean, you hit something really important there, because I think that the one thing we've not said yet is any of these social channels, you've got to be a consumer of it, right? You need to understand it, not just thinking that you can just sort of pick a piece of paper up or listen to this webinar and you got it all, but you've got to understand what it's like to be the consumer so that you can help to kind of deliver on all of that. You mentioned AI. We have to stop there for a moment too. And Bailey, I'll start with you on this one. Is it something that you utilize, and if so, how? And do you suggest that somebody beginning to jump into this should embrace in some form or fashion?
Yes. I don't engage in anything that does not work, and working for me means ROI. So all of my content and copy is met with a very specific call to action that is generally crafted using whatever it is my end goal is. So for instance, my company uses Podium to engage with our customers. My most effective campaigns are ones that ask very specifically for the customer to message us. And Podium is the only text message platform, the only SaaS company that has a good relationship with OpenAI, and they have incorporated AI into the responses. I have not turned on auto response. I have, however, turned on my Podium messages are crafted by AI. We look them over and then we send them. That is the most concrete methodology, the most concrete use of AI I use. That said, just about everything I do is run through the filter of ChatGPT.
Okay. Well, okay, fair. Crystal, talk a little bit more about that. You talked about really looking at AI for some of those great talking points, et cetera. How do you feel that a retailer, no matter their size, should be utilizing it in this instance?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest parts when it comes to social media is just getting started and knowing what to post. And so a retailer could go to any AI platform. I prefer ChatGPT like Bailey, and I will go there and you can put in, give it some detail. The better the prompt, the better the response. And so I like to say things like, you're the best social media marketer in the world. I own a furniture store. You're going to craft me a 30 or a month long content schedule. I use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I post daily on every platform. Here is my website. If you've got paid GPT, it can go scroll through your website, learn more about you. And then you ask it, what questions do you have for me before you begin? And it's going to send back about 6 to 8 questions about your demographic, any events you have going on, promotions, what kind of tone do you prefer? It's going to fill in the blanks for you because you might not know what to put in the prompt. So tell it, what do you have for me? What questions for me? You'll answer all that. And it's almost like now you've got this marketing department, this person that you're brainstorming with. They know the right questions to ask to really create a dialed out plan for you. So that's one way. And you can even have it give you image suggestions, video suggestions, hooks for the videos, hashtags, include captions. It can write your emails, email subject lines, text, like Bailey said. It can write, if you have to write an employee up, if you are hiring and you need to create the job description, if you're brainstorming campaign ideas for different holidays, there's so much you can do, and you should. And again, so hard to get started, so hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. So using AI to really support you in those marketing efforts and copy efforts, it's going to save you a lot of time.
But I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. And Marissa, I'll ask this of you, but we aren't necessarily talking about just, just take it and post it.
Right.
You still, there still has to be a level of realizing that this is really a lot of good idea generation and utilizing it in that way, right? I mean, we're not talking about just copying over what happens and then suddenly you're going to call that a good post on some level of social media.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, so human inputs get really good AI outputs. But there is still sort of that human oversight, right? Because again, you are human, AI is not. And when you take content that AI has produced, it needs an extra layer of authenticity added to it. And savvy shoppers, young shoppers, know they can sniff it out. And especially if everyone is using AI for the same prompt, you're going to get a lot of the same type of language and copy written, right? And that's not who you are. You're original. You have your own voice and you have your own perspective on things. So AI is a great prompt. It's a great brainstorming idea. It's a great ideation, and you can take what it gives you and then tailor it accordingly. There are great websites out there that can check your AI to detect whether they think if you're speaking like a robot or if they think a human wrote it, right? And that doesn't mean that a human has to write it to become human, but there are different ways: sentence structure, syllables, that you're using, adjectives that you're using, things like that.
Right.
So again, there's still a human element that benefits AI. AI alone is not going to do the trick. But again, it goes back to, who are you? What do you have to offer? What are your values?
Right.
Who is your audience? What do they care about? The more you can tailor your prompts, the better AI is going to be doing at doing the things that don't come naturally to you, right? We're not all amazing writers. We're not all a great, headline writers and,
Right.
and copywriters. So use AI to help where you need help, right? Your business, your customers, your products. AI
Right.
doesn't, but AI can take all that information and make it better. So it's a relationship. It's a partnership.
Right. Yeah, please go ahead.
Just real quick, because one thing we're actively working on at Crystal Media is you can create a custom GPT if you have a paid account, which is $20 a month. And we are feeding it. I am answering everything how I answer. I'm feeding it my podcast episodes. I'm feeding it all sorts of content from me and creating our own GPT that can sound like Crystal. So then my team, when they're going to create captions, emails, responses, it's going to be closer. And we're also training it to learn our products and services, everything we do as well. The AI is smart. And it's like, it's speeding up every single day. It's crazy how fast things are changing. So I do recommend, like Marissa's so right, you're editing, you want your own tone. And if you can take extra time and build it to be as close to you and understand you, you'll get that even faster result. And then you're still going to want to proof it and possibly edit it.
Yeah. And I think what we've kind of been dancing around here is the point that in any of these social channels, I've always heard it preached that you want to have, what I refer to as your own voice, right? It has to be something that sounds like, sounds like you. And I guess that's the point you guys just really drilled home neatly there, which is, the AI is a great addition in so many ways and for recommendations, but, ensuring that it's your voice that's coming through.
And can I
Yes,
just
go.
add to that real quick?
Sure,
Sorry.
sure.
And the reason why we say that is because there has to be consistency. If you are putting out amazing, funny, witty, relatable posts, and then I come to your store and you're anything but, that's a great disconnect, right? That's not helping me. But if
Okay.
I interact with you on the phone, if I interact with you with email, if I come into your store and there is a holistic personality there, well, now I know that this is the real deal.
I like that, a holistic personality. Okay. I no, I appreciate that. That is super helpful. So we've talked a lot about TikTok. We got to remember that there are other social channels there. So I guess the question I would ask to kind of get us a little bit broader spectrum here is, okay, so how do you, I'm sitting here thinking I'm a store owner, I'm wearing 5 hats, and one of them is I've got to do something relating to social media and get word out there. And I'm looking and I just see all these different options. So tell me, for their sake, how would you approach that, and what's the best way to come up with a true strategy as to what that looks like? Bailey, I'll start with you since you're in the trenches and on a day-to-day basis. What are your thoughts about that? How do you take the overwhelm out of this and really let people kind of grind down on these different channels?
Take the overwhelm out by making it fun. You make it fun, it'll be more authentic. It'll make sense. Follow the CEOs of these companies. Follow Jeff Stump, follow Chu, follow Adam Mosseri, and listen to them. Follow Adam Mosseri once a week, gets on a live and does a Q&A. Listen to everything that he says, because he will tell you exactly how to achieve your goal.
Okay.
When they bring a new initiative in, they are going to be pushing that initiative, whether it's a reel. Reels were huge last summer. So don't waste your time by doing the thing that's kind of the antiquated version of the social media platform. Listen to what it is that the social media platform wants you to be doing, and don't overwhelm yourself with everything. Do the one
Okay.
thing that is working.
Love that. Crystal, what do you think?
I think you got to have a strategy going into it. Most retailers don't. So I think that often social is back burner because we're doing so many other things. Like you said, they're wearing 5 times 20 hats, and social becomes back burner. The reality is that you have an opportunity to connect with your customers every single day on social media. And if we don't have a strategy on showing up and connecting, then we are often missing opportunities. There's so many choices that the customer has today. And if you're not top of mind and showing up where they are showing up and spending their time, you're missing out. So you can use AI to help do that research, to help create the strategy for you. The key, though, is I really want retailers to create consistent content and be authentic and talk to their customer and solve their pain and be them. And if you can only do that on the one platform and you're most comfortable with Facebook and you've researched, your audience is on Facebook, then that's where you can start spending your time and attention. Be consistent. I think that we have all these hopes that we can do all sorts of stuff on all the platforms. And that's why it becomes back burner and it becomes overwhelming, because it's just not realistic. So we have to create the strategy where my customers spend their time. Where do I feel comfortable? How am I going to show up? What kind of time allocation do I have? And the one thing I will say is that with social, we get that opportunity, but it does take time to do. And so if you don't have the time today, there are a lot of other ways that you can market your business. Are you leveraging and focusing and connecting and consistent in one channel? And if you're not, maybe social isn't your jam, but maybe you're really going to focus on email, and that's where you're going to really be showing up and committing because it makes sense for your business, then create a strategy around that. But ultimately, no matter what you're doing, it just comes down to that consistency.
Okay. Marissa?
Yeah, I start with strategy and then always be asking why. Because there's a lot of things you could be doing. You don't need to be doing all of them. You shouldn't be doing all of them, right? So there's this idea of like, we get so excited, we get so hyper about the newest, coolest thing, whatever is doing. But at the end of the day, you need to justify why you're dedicating that time and energy and money to that thing. So yeah, you can do a lot of things. Let's ask why. What is this helping us accomplish? What goal is this helping us achieve? If you can't answer that question definitively, don't do it. Because again, your stakeholders, your community, there's a lot of people who are going to be coming to you and saying, hey, that was really funny, but what was the point of that? And if you can't answer that question, then then maybe your stakeholders are not going to fully trust what your vision is. So, and again, going to Crystal's point, if you don't want to be on social, don't be on social. No, but know that you have to own that decision. If people say, oh, you know what, you should totally be on Insta or TikTok, and you said, you know what, that's great. We explored those channels. It just wasn't the right fit for us, but thank you so much. As a result, though, we're doing these other things to make up for not being present on those online channels. So maybe that means community events or sponsorships, or, just pop-up shops or, guerrilla marketing. So just know that these are just opportunities. Not all of it is going to match what it is that you want to achieve.
Right.
So that's important to really just understand that why.
But and it's interesting too, because the word that came to my head as you were talking through that just now is both is that it's commitment, right? It's a question of not being everything to everybody, not being on every channel, but it's okay. I know my customers are Facebook people, and I'm going to commit to the continuity of being on that platform, and that's where I'm going to deliver this or whatever that channel might be. So it's less about the scattergun approach and really more about the fact of really focusing. And I think that's hugely valuable. I want to get to, by the way, to a couple of questions that were in prior to us starting today that I wanted to ask. And I think these are just kind of interesting. One question was, can you retrofit other marketing assets to social media? I think I know where that's coming from, right? This is somebody that's like, well, we're spending money creating something, how can we get more out of it? Is that, and I'll throw that out to whoever wants to answer that one. Can you retrofit other marketing assets, or is that the road to tired and stale?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on.
Go for it, Crystal. Go for it. I want to hear what you say.
Okay, well, so I want to hear what you both have to say too. So I feel like it kind of depends on the asset. What I'll see sometimes from retailers is you'll have an ad that's going out in a magazine, and it's text heavy, that they'll post that ad on social media, where social is about connection and human. Like, we want to see people and hear from you, or we want to like visually see the product. And so a lot of text on a graphic is just, that's not going to translate as well. So it really does depend on what's being shared.
Gotcha. I hear you saying not something that's already fully baked, but maybe the elements of it or some of the materials. Okay, gotcha. Marissa, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think, again, you start with the concept and you think, okay, who needs to see this? What does this look like on a billboard on the side of the highway? What does this look like as a reel? What does this look like as an email? What does this look like on a splash page, right? So it's not about, I think of it like as like translation, right? You never want to just copy, like, do Google Translate, word verbatim, right? Like, there's a nuance to it. So I think you're always starting with the concept, and then you're applying that concept to different tactics.
Okay.
And so if you think about all of these things as tactics, then you're going to, refine it and edit it and evolve it in a way that's particular to that platform.
Okay. Bailey, any thoughts on that?
Short answer is absolutely. And it creates brand consistency and an aesthetic consistency and trust in your brand. Long answer. a piece of pillar content that really encapsulates that you can pull everything else from is huge. So a really SEO rich blog post with lots of content, lots of copy, lots of strategic copy and content. And you can pull from that so easily. 3 emails, 6 Facebook posts, 2
Gotcha.
TikToks, make one big piece of content and pull from that everything you need for weeks.
Love that. That's awesome. And by the way, Bailey, you there's a question that just came in that said, can Bailey please mention one more time the names of who to follow? Can you run through that real quick again?
Yeah, Adam Mosseri is probably #1. He will tell you exactly the kind of content, not what to put into the content, but what kind of content Instagram is pushing this week. Jeff Stamp is the Chief Creative Officer for TikTok, and he will tell you posts that are this length with this kind of like this is what we are pushing this week. Anyone who says that the algorithms are agnostic or that the social media, they're not. When someone comes up with a great new idea and they really want it to succeed, video, for instance, reels on Instagram, they're going to be pushing those. And if you are the one making them and you were on the ball early and you were doing it the way they want it, you're going to get more views. So Jeff Stamp and Adam Mosseri are probably the big ones to
appreciate that. I saw that some of our folks that are on the meeting threw a bunch of hearts up as you said that. So I think they got what they were looking for. So that's awesome. And Bailey, this is something that you threw out early on that I wanted just to mention here because it came out in a question that I'll toss up to all 3 of you again. Is there such a thing as too many hashtags? Go ahead, Marissa. You're jumping on that one. Go ahead.
It depends on the platform. I think there's like a 30 limit on Instagram or things like that. And again, there's always a speculation that's like, oh, should you put it in a comment or should it be in the caption? I think Instagram says put it in the caption. So it depends on the platform. It depends what the point of those hashtags are, right? So again, are they branded? Is it the idea behind a hashtag is discoverability and sort of the archiving of that content. So if I go to a branded hashtag, I should be able to see all the content that belongs to that branded hashtag. So that should be useful, right? Don't expect that everyone's going to be following the hashtag furniture, right? Because there's going to be a lot of content there. So think about it from an SEO component. It definitely does add to your discoverability on platforms because social media is now a search platform. And it's sometimes good to identify how you are identifying your content. My best advice is sort of 3 hashtags that are branded, right? Company name, company acronyms, something like that. And then maybe 3 to 5 hashtags that describe the content. Is this colorful? Is this a certain fabric? Is this a certain style? Then you can add a little bit more, 3 to 5 of thematic content. Is this Valentine's Day? Is this sales? So a kind of evergreen content kind of thing. So like thematic, descriptive, and branded. That's how I would put out your hashtags. And again, it depends on platform for how many you use. And
then also, Bailey, early on, you mentioned the fact too, that if you're trying to drive people to a location, you want to make sure that one of those hashtags is location driven, correct? Did I hear you correctly earlier?
That would be my yes.
Okay. Crystal, any thoughts on hashtags before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, they're super important. We hosted a generational shopping panel and we had 4 different generations, and Gen Z and millennial on the panel were saying when they are searching for products to buy, they're going to TikTok and Instagram and searching via hashtag, not to Google. Google's not their first choice. It's TikTok and Instagram using hashtags. So you've got to use them. And be in the mind of your shopper. What are they going to be searching for to find your product? And then Instagram last year said that they want you to be using 3 to 5 hashtags. You can do up to 30. They want, if your brands will hashtag stuff and have a bunch of hashtags in there just to try to have their content be found. And so they're trying to minimize that because that's going to mess with their search results. When people are searching for hashtags, you're going to find a bunch of irrelevant things. So you want to be really strategic on like, what are my people searching for? Use 3 to 5 on Instagram. I recommend doing the same for TikTok too. Some of this can come into testing to see what works best for your content as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had somebody told me recently too. They said, don't, when it comes to hashtags, don't get too clever. Make sure that it really does zero in. You know, there's some people that have tried so desperately to put in clever stuff, and then nobody can search it. This was an interesting question that came in about that there are some retailers that report a little bit of difficulty as far as social media approach when it comes to luxury market customers. Is that a misnomer that just because somebody's looking for high end that they're not really the targets of these social media campaigns? How would you respond to that? Anybody that wants to jump on that, please do.
I think they're using social media. I think that they want to see, I think that the aesthetic might be very important to them. I think the quality of the image, the video, they might want a little bit more higher end produced short form, TikTok or reel that's like taking it through, that might has a little bit of music. Like, I feel like there might be a next level of the quality of content to maybe really capture. Again, we're trying to stop the scroll and capture the attention. So what stops their scroll? But I definitely think that they're on social, they're looking for trends. They want to know what's popular, what's coming, what's different and unique. Yeah.
And they are influenced by influencers.
Yes,
absolutely. So again, this might be a different type of influencer, right? It's an elite. It's an exclusive club, right? So everything that Crystal just said, I totally agree with. But yeah, shoppers, luxury shoppers, they're just like us, right? They can also, and they might have, and again, like, I think sometimes there's always this mystique with the luxury shopper. The luxury shopper just has more disposable income, right? It doesn't mean that the quality, so again, they're susceptible to the same things that we are. They're the same type of consumer. They love to get sucked in with an Instagram ad, right? Because again, but what, maybe they want the bundle, maybe they want the more exclusive, right? Or so again, it's not necessarily a different tactic to get them. It's just a different type of content. And again, you would do this anyway. If you had someone come into the store and say, hey, I'm on a budget, you're not going to show them the gold plated couch, right? Like, and so if someone comes in and says, hey, I'm working on my third house, well, that's going to give you some intelligence. Hey, these people may have a little bit more money than others. So we're already doing this. We're just now doing this on an online platform.
Okay. We're getting down to the wire here, believe it or not. This hour is just like flown by. You just said the word influencer, and I did have that in notes to bring up, and I wasn't sure if how pertinent that is for an individual retailer, unless we're seeing someone, maybe the owner or somebody on their staff who's dynamic, who sort of becomes kind of that sort of organic influencer. Bailey, is being an influencer or utilizing influencers, is that something that most people can do, or is that just for a very specific category of posters?
My my social media team just left. She wouldn't mind me telling you, the guy from the Jets, Zach Wilson's mom's house here in Utah. She did not want to work with. She loved our couch because it was at a price point that her followers could afford in her very, very, very beautiful mountainous Utah home theater. So the answer to, can influencers work? Absolutely. But it's about having a really, really good relationship with them and taking care of them and making sure they do love your brand.
Okay.
And I'll give a shout out. I think this came up in another HFA webinar a few months or years ago. NIL is a huge thing. So I live in a college town. I'm sure we all live sort of near a big university or a small college. NIL, your name, image, license for athletes. You're seeing this a lot. And again, if you're in a college town and you're trying to attract a younger professional audience,
There you go.
getting a college athlete, again, just like any influencer, we want to make sure that they align with our values, that they, again, there's always a risk when using any type of influencer. But there is now this additional pool sort of available to us as marketers that we can sort of leverage to get a stronghold, within certain communities that may have not been available to us. And again, a younger influencer means that they're probably going to have a larger audience somewhere online in maybe an environment that you're not currently in. So there are definitely types of those relationships that are now more readily available to us thanks to things like NIL. But with any influencer, it doesn't have to be someone who has a lot of followers. It can be someone who just has a lot of influence. So micro influencers, nano influencers, people who just have a very loyal following around a certain topic, right? So again, going back to Bailey's point of view, if there is a furniture blogger, if there is a thrift, vintage blog or whatever, like, try to find how you guys can partner together, because again, maybe it's just getting them to stitch your reels, or TikToks, and further along that message. So it can look differently for everyone, but it's a potential that everyone can leverage.
Gotcha. Crystal, I'll give you the last word on this.
I mean, I would just add, I have a show called Rooted in Retail, and I interviewed Alex, who started Couch.com, which is on the basis of affiliate marketing and content marketing. And I think that we had a conversation about affiliate marketing, which can be kind of similar to influencers, where people who are creating content in all sorts of different ways, it doesn't have to be just TikTok or just social media, but they're creating content and they're building audiences and platforms. They're looking to make money. And so if they can link to your affiliate marketing program and sell your product through to their audiences, just like influencers do, and they have their affiliate link, they're sending out emails for you. It's a way that you can replicate yourself without you creating all this content and really showing up. So I think that we're going to hear, it's very similar to influencer marketing, but I think we're going to hear it a lot more this year with affiliate marketing.
Okay, that's a great place to stop. There have been so many tremendous takeaways from this conversation today. I want to remind everybody that myhfa.org/webinars, where you can find our entire library of these webinars, and this one will join it tomorrow. And I would highly recommend sharing it with your teams, whatever would be necessary. But I want to thank, first and foremost, the panel today. Crystal Velkaitis, owner of Crystal Media. We thank you so much. Marissa Peacock from the Strategic Peacock, and Bailey Nebaker, owner of American Homestead Furniture, as well as Wallaroos Furniture and Mattress. I apologize you didn't get a chance to see my face, because I had a lot of great positive reactions that would have given you some oxygen, but that's okay. No, but I really appreciate you all joining us, and I just want to always wish two things upon everybody joining us, and that is, number one, wonderful sales and good health going forward. On behalf of all of us here at the Home Furnishings Association, I'm Mark Schumacher. Thanks so much. We will see you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.